At time of recording, it's late. I'm tired, but I wanted to share this with you. This is Emily Wilson's controversial translation of the Odyssey. This is, to my knowledge, the first woman. Emily's the first woman to have translated the Odyssey in its entirety. Now, she's a feminist, and The Critical Drinker is a famous internet personality. What he says resonates with a lot of people. Some of it resonates with me, because Hollywood has changed a lot in the last, I'd say since about 2015. What I've noticed is Hollywood often takes anything that they take to be traditional. Well, now they've got to deconstruct it and overturn the tropes, and it can be quite annoying when they don't have a story to tell they don't have their own story to tell. They're just trying to, their messaging overtakes the story. And Critical Drinker points this out in an entertaining way. It resonates with lots of people. He pointed out, though, recently, he's worried about Christopher Nolan's Odyssey movie. I am too. The trailers are concerning to me. I personally just don't care about what Hollywood has to say like I used to. The veil has been torn away, and you see this for what it is, and Hollywood's not a big deal to me. However, Christopher Nolan is one of the few filmmakers that I continue to enjoy. I loved Batman Begins, The Dark Knight. I liked Inception. I liked Interstellar. He's one of the people that I trust. He's an intelligent guy. But I have concerns about this. And I've said my piece. I don't have a problem necessarily with bringing in non-white peoples to play certain roles. If it's done in good faith. Hollywood has not been doing that in good faith in every case. Christopher Nolan, I think, well, okay, maybe I trust the guy. Maybe he's got good intentions. But I am so concerned about so much about this movie. This is the translation that the man's basing that apparently influenced him. And one of the things I don't like in the trailer is that he has very casual dialogue.
My dad is coming home.
And when it's an epic like this, I prefer for it to be epic language. Heroes, in some way, can inspire you to be a better version of yourself. But there's a lot of cultural complexities here, more complex than left versus right. And I just want to give you very specific things here to help you come away with a fuller understanding of it. I'm going to show you Greek words, her word choices, Vince's older translations' word choices. And before I do that, I want to say that this is Bullfinch's mythology. This is an older way of learning about the great myths from around the world. But this is the age of fable, the age of chivalry, legends of Charlemagne. This is a cool book, man. This is a fairly sanitized view of the old pagan myths, because if you've read them, you know how absolutely depraved some of those stories can be. I don't mean to be offensive, but rape, murder, betrayal, just pretty depraved things. Some of the stories, however, including with Odysseus, are very inspirational, man. They're just great epic stories. Now, I prefer the Iliad, but man, great stories. Now, I converted to the Catholic Church. Saint Basil the Great, long ago, when these stories were still a huge part of the Roman Empire, the Greco-Roman society's cultural tapestry. He said he wrote an address to young men about how to read these pagan Greek myths. Are they all bad? Should you toss them all out? I think it was Tertullian who said, what does Athens have to do with Jerusalem? Just get rid of all of it. No Greek philosophy, no thought, no stories, just ditch it. That's not what all the Christians thought. We could talk about that for an hour, but St. Basil the Great said, when the stories are depraved, stop up your ears, is what he said. But when the stories and these heroes show true virtue, by the way, Dante put Odysseus in hell, if I recall, because of his trickery in the Trojan War. But when these heroes show courage, fortitude, wisdom, etc., the virtues, they're to be, these are good embodiments of these ideals in these epic stories. Absolutely read those. There's nothing wrong with that. And that's sort of my take as well. But in a society Christianized and then Protestantized, a lot of cultural buildup, they have sanitized the myths so that you get a nicer, more polite society understanding of them. Some translations in the modern world in the recent times strip away those niceties and make it a little bit more bare bones. However, right off the bat with her translation, it's also more casual. It's like going from the King James version of the Bible or the Douay-Rheims version of the Bible to the NIV. The NIV is a decent translation in some ways, but you kind of feel like you lost something. It's not as artistically beautiful. Her translation is very readable. It flows well. If you haven't ever read the story, you're going to be able to get the gist of it really quickly from this. Here's the specifics. Sometimes people tell me all the time, you're only a Christian because you grew up in a Christian society, and they make these assumptions about me. But yes, I have cultural and philosophical assumptions, presuppositions about how I see the world. That being said, I think it's fair to say I've done a fair amount of homework and reflecting on things, and have chosen to become or remain a Christian by choice. What agnostics and atheists often don't see is that they're atheists and agnostics because they live in a modern secularizing society with their own cultural assumptions and the way they see the world too. You're an atheist largely because you live in an atheizing, agnostic society with a lot of cultural presuppositions. So do feminists. So she's being praised for whittling away those Victorian, that cultural funk, that cultural buildup from Victorian age or Victorian views of women, and getting back to the meat of it. And the thing I would say, though, is modern feminists also have, our views of gender are very much affected by the culture in which we live. We have identity fanaticism is one example of that, as Pope Leo has recently said. I want to get very specific. I don't hate every translation change she made. No, I haven't finished it. So let me finish it, and I'll have a final verdict then. But to this point, I don't see that this is a big deal. I think it's been overblown. I want to give you some specifics. All right. Come on in here. I'm going to show you this Logos Bible software. On my Logos Bible software, I also have other Greek study tools, because there's a difference between Koine Greek, which is the common vulgar Greek of the New Testament times. It's not quite as high and quite as beautiful as Attican Greek. Attica referring to a place in Greece, Attican, the Hellenes after the Greek character, the classical Greek of Homer. Languages change over time. So I have just for example, the Brill Dictionary of Ancient Greek, the respected source. Here in Emily Wilson's translation, she calls Helen, she refuses to call women, excuse my language, bitch. Fagles and some other translations will translate a certain word, bitch. And she'll argue that that word has a female dog, has cultural connotations, usually with sexual impropriety or things like this, that wasn't present in the ancient Greek. Yeah, that might be true. So she translates them differently. For example, in Book 4, she says, "The Greeks marched off to Troy, their minds fixated on the war and violence. They made my face the cause that hounded them." And the word used there is a derivative of kunides or kunipis. This is a word for dog or dog-like, and it's used in other ancient works, not just Homer. And it could be, basically, the connotation is shameless, shameful-eyed, dog-faced, imprudent, is what Brill talks about. This is Homer's Odyssey. This has the Greek and an English translation. And later on in the story, it talks about Telemachus. And Telemachus, he says, "Presently I shall go to Telemachus and tell him, bitch, what sort of things you are saying, so that on the spot he may cut you limb from limb." All right, well, the Greek is heitaka telemako hereo kuon, etc., etc. Well, that is a word for essentially dog. This is a derivative of kuon, dog. Here is Stephen Mitchell's. It's a modern translation by a male. It's readable. It's not beautiful, but it's very readable. He says, for example, back in book 4 with Helen, Telemachus, whom he left at home as a baby when for my sake, bitch that I was, you Achaeans went off to fight beneath the great walls of Troy. So Emily says, hey, I don't like that connotation. I don't blame her, because it's not, you are almost reading a very modern, not Victorian, but a very modern view of what that word means. But I don't think their translation is awful. I don't think her translation is awful either. She might say something like dog-eyed or dog-faced or shame-faced. But here's the thing. Here's Lattimore's translation, a beautiful translation, an older translation. Not all males use this language all the time either. So I don't like the talk where you're like, hey, all these old bigot males who have disrespect for women. I hear women use the B word at each other all the time. And I think one day, I suspect this is going to be considered anti-feminist to use this insult towards women. He translates it differently. By the man when for the sake of shameless me, the Achaeans went beneath Troy, their hearts intent upon reckless warfare. So he's not using the word, the B word. Another word is whore. So personally, I don't see a problem with using a dog-like or dog-faced. I don't see this is not, here's what I have a problem with Hollywood. They will take male characters like Luke Skywalker or Han Solo, and they'll just put in Rey, and they want you to think Rey is cool, that she's the leader of the saga. So they, in order to show that she's a good character, they don't develop the character. What they do instead is try to, hey, you think Han Solo's good at flying the Falcon? Rey's better. Cool, she can fix the Falcon. Han Solo couldn't fix it. She can fix it. What'd you do?
I bypassed the compressor.
And it just becomes silly. It's bad writing. It's lazy. It doesn't make me know who the character is or know why she's good at this or why I should care. All you did was take the character that I already love and invert it. But they're trying to invert tropes, but this has itself become the trope. Same thing with Luke Skywalker. You thought he was the hero. You thought he was hopeful and optimistic. Well, it turns out he's a space atheist now. And Rey is the one who's going to restore balance to the Force. It's just bad. I don't know that that's what she's doing with Odysseus. Another specific example she does is often these translations, to sanitize it a bit, will use, for female servants, they'll say something like handmaiden or servant. She'll straight up say slave. Again, I don't have a problem with them using the word handmaiden. I don't have a problem with her using the word slave, because oftentimes these were enslaved peoples. What I think sometimes some feminists might miss is that here's a slight spoiler if you haven't read it. In the end, the female servants who slept with the suitors are killed or executed. It's brutal. And sometimes it's like, well, the men can go around sleeping with, Odysseus can sleep with Circe and all these females, but these women can't sleep with these males. So that's a poor view of women. I think what they miss is they had betrayed this house, not by sleeping with the males essentially, but by siding with the males, and sleeping with them was part of that. So that's why they were executed. That being said, I'm going to come back to the thing where these pagan heroes, Odysseus, is pagan. Dante put him in hell. It's a great story, but this is brutal to execute people in this fashion as though they got their comeuppance. It's fun to watch him, honestly, to take out the suitors who kept harassing his wife and eating him out of house or home and threatening his son. It's kind of fun to see them get their comeuppance, this theme of vengeance, which is rather non-Christian. But it's a brutal time. I don't think it's moral for him to execute these women. She also translated something about Penelope, Odysseus' wife, who was a master weaver. She could weave things very well. There's a cool story about the shroud she's weaving to deceive these would-be suitors. She translates a certain phrase as though she has a muscular hand. Now, personally, I'm not a classicist, but my takeaway from that is that she has a skilled hand, a heavy hand. The Greek means thick, and I think what they're implying is that she's a skilled, practiced person. She translates it muscular. That's a weird choice to my mind, but I don't think it's overturning the story, making Odysseus the hero, the traditional hero, the enemy, and Penelope the hero instead, or something like that. So my take is that we should let Homer's pagan story be Homer's story. Let this ancient story be what it is. I'm okay with the Victorians sanitizing it. I'm okay with modern writers showing more of the brutality of it, because that's how it really was. I'm okay with either one, but it's best, I think, to let it be what it is. Just like you should read the Bible and let the Bible be what the Bible is. You don't need to try to make it fit to whatever your personal, cultural, ideological preferences are. Let it be what it is. But I don't see yet that Emily Wilson has taken the Odyssey and turned it into a situation of, hey, Rey's way cooler than Luke and Han, just believe it, she's a Mary Sue. I'm not seeing that. It is very modern, it's very casual. Her translation flows very well. It's iambic pentameter in the English, so you can read a couple of books. The Odyssey is built up into books. It's made of books, compiled of books. You can read a few of those without even realizing, because it flows so well. You won't get bogged down in the beautiful prose or the richness of it. Something like Lattimore. You know, I can read Tolkien, and sometimes I'm just reading Tolkien and I'm flowing and I'm in the world. Other times I get just stuck on the way it's worded because it's so beautiful, and I'm actually just looking at the prose. I'm like, man, this is really good. I don't find that with her, but you might find that with something like Lattimore or Fagel's translation. I think it's Fagel's translation on Audible where Sir Ian McKellen narrates it. It's pretty good. The problems I have with this movie are manifold. I want to trust Christopher Nolan, but A, I just don't care for Hollywood much anymore, and B, the trailers make this seem bland, lifeless, colorless. I think multiple acting choices I struggle with. So I might go see it, but I'm really not thrilled about it. But I am less and less thrilled with Hollywood in general, TV, movies, the music industry. Soon you'll find out there's old music that's so good. Not just pop music, but like some of the great classical music or Gregorian chants or sacred music. And once you start reading these old stories, whether it's the Bible or Germanic mythology or the Iliad, some of the more modern stories to me just kind of fall flat. They're just consumerist products, and they're very shallow. I'm concerned this is going to fall into that category. But whoever you are, hey, this is the internet, by the way. People get mad. They're going to accuse you of all kinds of things if you say anything. All that's nonsense. So I hope you know that your life matters. Turn the internet off, go outside, read an ancient book. I recommend going to church and praying. Be kind to a stranger today. And remember that you matter. God loves you. As always, thanks for watching. God bless.